Hey everyone, this is me, Undead Viking, and this is Haven Titan Command. Now, one thing that I really enjoy, whether it is in books I've read, or if it's in games I play, or movies I watch, it is giant robots beating the crap out of each other. I played a lot of MechWarrior and Battletech when I was younger. I enjoyed a great deal of Robotech when I was young, and this is a little card game that has 4 giant robots inside of it, 4 titans, if you will. The game is about each player controlling this giant mechanized being of destruction and giving it lots of different powers and defenses and upgrades and what have you, and going to strange battlefields in a sci-fi setting and going at it and seeing who is the last person standing. It is a very fast-paced strategic and tactical game where you are going to be, you have a set deck of cards that you will create. Then you will just see who manages to use those cards to the best of their ability to win the game. Alright, so let me show you how the game is played, and then we'll come back here and I'll tell you what I finally think about this fun little game. This is Haven Titan Command. As you can see, I have uploaded the app, and this app is really awesome as far as being able to control exactly how much damage your Titan has taken, and also just how much fuel it has. So as you're using cards to increase the fuel, you'll just, because these represent the 3 different cores, as I said, you kind of set up this little like 3x3 grid here. But so then, and you can see the fuel increases over there. So if you put fuel in here and so forth and so on, that's how you do that. And as you can probably guess, these are the different damages, the cores, and so as you take damage, you go down, and here, like we'll get down here and it'll say, warning, core critical. And then the cool thing is that if you ever take a ton of damage, as I said, if you ever run out, it gets destroyed. And so then let's get this down to 2 here, and I'll show you. It's like, ooh. So it actually says, and that activates your critical Titan protocol or whatever. Now, of course, I gotta reduce it. Titan destroyed. Alright, so, and then that is, obviously you've been killed and you're out of the game. So let's go ahead and reboot this really quick here. It's kind of a cool little action scene, if you will, as you reboot this up. And this is just kind of, obviously this kind of adds to the immersion, but it actually, in a lot of ways, is really helpful just because of the fact that you don't have to deal with a bunch of these little chits and everything. You're still going to use these for combat, but these are fuel chits and what have you that you normally use. And there's also damage chits that you would use as well to determine how much damage you've taken in any particular spot. Alright, so each person gets a deck of cards. The deck of cards will have their faction. I've gone ahead and chosen this faction for this, the Soul. I kind of like this green kind of Bio Warrior Titan or whatever. I really like that picture. It reminds me of Shadow of the Colossus for whatever reason. But anyway, so you have all these cards, and the cards that have the color have the faction. Obviously, this is a prototype. I don't have the cards with art, but these have, on them, either they're neutral cards like this, they're gray, and you get a neutral deck of 40 cards, and then, the players can kind of draft out of that if you want to add these to their deck, so that is something, and then they actually have pre-set up, setups for each faction that you want to create, and so, you can mix and match, and you can have fun with it. Just if any kind of game where you're building a deck, if you're familiar with that, you can kind of mess with it a little bit and try to do something special with it. Anyway, so you have these cards, you shuffle up your deck, and then you will, at the beginning of the game, you will draw 7 cards off the top of the deck, and then you will keep the cards that you want to out of those 7 cards, and then you'll discard the rest, and then you'll draw up to 7 again, and that will be your starting hand, and then you need to then reshuffle your deck. So here, let me just take 7 cards at the top here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and I have no idea what I'm going to get here. I didn't set this up, so I might, have horrible cards. Alright, so at the top left, you're going to see there are these little symbols, and they have little ones, and so, and then U, S, S is support, D is defense, O, like the little, like 0 but O, that is an offensive card, and so forth. And so you have these different cards, and then we have one here, which is like a field skill, which is that. I didn't get a maneuver. Maybe I'll dig through the deck here and I'll find a maneuver just so I can show that to you. And I should mention, before we even show you how we arm and supply, each mech has like a little background to it, and then it has a mass limit. That's how heavy your particular Titan can be, and also like how many maneuver cards you can have. And so the mass limit for this one is 30,000, and the maneuver cards are 1. Let me just grab another one here and I can show you. So here's this cool looking one, Elevus, and then if we turn it over, you can see maneuver cards of 2 and 28,000. So, you know, it is asymmetrical and it is set up. And I should also, before we dive further in, show you that, like, there is the critical protocol, and this is permanently increase the value of all commands of equipment armed to your Titan by 3. And so that is basically like, as you're almost dying, you're at 5 or less health, your Titan like gains an extra special power to kind of like give it that last gasp that you're going to possibly have. And so that's like the special power that is exhibited there. Alright, so during the arm phase, what you're going to do is each person that is playing, you can play up to 4 players as I said, each person will take a turn to go ahead and place a card down to arm their mech with. Let me just get this out of the way for a second. And so, as I said, you have to kind of imagine you have like a little grid here, and then you have your 3 cores in the middle, and your cores are going to be the ones that are able to generate your fuel that is going to power everything else that is on your mech. And you have things that you're going to attack with, and then things that you're going to defend with. And so it's pretty obvious, you know, offense is forward, defense is back. And so what is going to happen is each person's going to go ahead and place a card down, place a card down, place a card down. So if I was playing 2 players, there's somebody sitting over there, I put a card down, they put a card down, I put a card down, they put a card down. Until one person decides they're not going to put any more cards down, and they say launch. And when they say launch, that means that they're going to be the person that is going to initiate the combat round. And we're going to get to that in just a second. But then the other player gets one more time to put one more card down. And then if it's 4 players, the first person says launch, then all the other 3 players get to then add a card and so forth. So anyway, so we're looking at these. We can't really equip a field card, but so like defense equipment, you can see, and this doesn't cost anything. It only costs when you activate things. So you can see here it has 4,000. You know, it's like this is a universal halon system, pretty good defense. So like you put this, and you put these starting face down. You don't go ahead and, you know, show those until you reveal. Now, if a card has something that says stealth on it, it will remain face down because of the fact that it is like your secret weapon. So if it has a little like mentions stealth as a keyword on there. And so, you know, here's a support equipment. So right now we're probably going to be looking for something that generates fuel. So here is a card. You can see it has a C on there, so it is a core card. It's core equipment, and you can see that this is a fuel card. It's gonna generate 6 fuel, and it is type regeneration. There are 3 types of these. There is one that is there is regeneration, there is accumulation, and of course my brain's depletion. I'm sorry, this is the one. So, regeneration, depletion, and accumulation. Now, the difference is that regeneration is an action that increases the fuel. Accumulation just passively increases, and depletion, when you reveal it or you activate the card, it just it go ahead and gives you the amount that is on there. So, accumulation is one that actually like accumulates. So it's like increases and increases. Actually, I'll find a couple other cards just so I can show you how this works. So then you would place a core card down like that, so showing that you can increase that. Here, let me just dig through this and find like an accumulation card. So here is an accumulation card. An accumulation, you can see it is type 4, and at the beginning of the supply phase, and this is the arm phase, but it's kind of like the supply phase as well, because it's arm phase to begin with. Gain a defense block with the value 1, damage, and it has defense and shield. So it's kind of a cool little, both gives you some fuel, but also gives you some gives you some defense as well. Alright, and okay, so now, of course, I need offensive equipment, and so I need to go ahead and find, so I have this, the Doom Shard, and so just so I understand this, you can name a damage type. This command is that type for that turn, so like you get to pick what damage does, and then it would be a cost of 4 and a value of 5, so it costs 4 fuel to activate, and then the damage is 5 total. So you name a damage type, and so then you can pick whether it is going to be one of those 4 damage types, you know, beam, impact, and so on and so forth. And so then you just go ahead and you place down one of your, and once again, face down, you place that in the offense structure. So I'm just trying to see here, maybe I can take a, I don't want to do that. Oh, that's right, I wanted to find a maneuver card just so I could show you what those were. Alright, let me show you one other quick thing here. So here is a maneuver card. So the maneuver has a cancel activated equipment command. That command cannot be activated again until that player pays 3 fuel as a primary action. Now, these are cards that you're going to be placing as you're fighting, and you put these face down, and you know what they are, but they're kind of interrupts. And so, like, if I had that in my hand, when we get to the combat phase, I'd be able to put that down, and obviously just I play it to interrupt somebody else's, you know, what they're going to be doing as far as an equipment command. Alright, and then here, like, I'm just gonna, you know, here's the Orion Reaver, and then this is, you know, it's one, yeah, it's just an attack, cost 3, it has these 2 damage types, damage of 3, but here, like command 1, increase the value of this command by 1 for each upgrade armed to your Titan. So, once again, this is like, you know, when you're playing the game, when you're having things like this, what it is that you have, like, you know, cards that work together, and so then if I, you know, have an upgrade, you know, like this, and I'm able to play it, I'd be able to increase the value of that card. And so that you can see there's a lot of interplay between the different cards that people are going to have in their hands and what they're going to be able to do. Alright, so let's say I said launch before the other player, and the other player plays one card, so I'm going to turn all these cards over to show them. And now remember, the regeneration is not going to give me any of that fuel, but the accumulation. At the beginning of the supply phase, gain a defense block with your, and then that's the command. And so if we go ahead and give me the fuel, you can go ahead and just go 1, 2, 3, 4, like so, and then you show that you have that 4 fuel. And then, like, obviously now I get to then, as the person that is launching first, I get to pick the location that we fight in. Now, at the beginning of the game, you're going to have different location cards. You have a location deck, and you can see there's round 1, round 2, and round 3. You don't have to pick one for each round. You could pick 3 round 1s if you want. You do get a location card that is for your particular faction. This is round 3, so I couldn't play it yet. But, like, in round 3, you could play any of these. Round 2, you could play either of these. And during round 1, you can play this. So, when you play like a location, like here's Ice Moon Lacano, maneuvers cannot be activated on the Ice Moon, and it has a navigation cost of 1 and a resistance cost of 2. So when I play this, I say, this is where we're fighting. We're fighting on the Ice Moon. And then I'm going to go ahead and reduce my fuel by 1 when I do that. Now, the other players, you can see, has a resist of 2. Now, if they don't want to fight on the Ice Moon, they can then use their fuel to resist it. In which case, then we do not go and fight at the Ice Moon. In which case, we just stay at what's on the location called Launchpad, which is just, you know, where you are. However, if they don't resist it, now we're fighting on the Ice Moon. Now, the next round, if somebody else plays another Ice Moon, actually another location, you know, say I am fighting against the other player, and let me just grab one. Like, they played, you know, the Kavanaugh Minefield. And I said, I don't want to fight in the Kavanaugh Minefield. I have a maneuver. Any player who activates maneuver must take 3 immediate damage. I don't want to do that because I have a really good maneuver, maybe. So I'm going to resist it. I'd pay that 3, and we would remain on the Ice Moon. And so, like, you stay in the location that you're still at. So the idea is that these Titans are blasting off to these different locations and fighting. And so, usually, the resist is more difficult. It costs more fuel than the actual traveling. Even if, like, if the person resisted that, I still have to spend my 1 fuel. You know, like, so I'm blasting off, and for whatever reason, I have to turn around and come back. I still use the fuel in that spot. Alright, so attacks and defenses are really, really simple and really, really quick to resolve. Basically what happens is that during your turn, you get to take a primary command and a secondary command. You might see that some of these cards have like a command 1 and a command 2. And so like command 1, name a damage type, that's the command that this takes. But command 2, destroy 1 equipment in your hand permanently, increase the value of command 1 by 2. So you like increase the power of that. And so you can see, like, you know, primary and secondary, what have you. Now, you don't have to take a secondary, you don't have to take a primary command. But when you take the action, you have to reduce the fuel. And so, and sometimes, like, there's ways you can break the rules. You can take more than 1 primary or more than 1 secondary. But by and large, you can only do 1 of each. So when you pick your primary command, you can either take a primary command that is on any of the cards that you have activated in your tableau, if you will, or you can draw a card from your supply and then arm any equipment or maneuver card from their hand to their Titan. Or you can activate a field skill from your hand. And that is, and all those are possible primary actions. So, like, if you wanted to, you could do a field skill. So you may reveal any location and navigate for 0 fuel. This cannot be resisted. Skip the next navigation phase. So you could blast off and go somewhere else. Then, after you activate your first action, that is when you can do the secondary action of what you're doing. So, if you're just going to do, like, if you just want to draw a card, that's pretty simple. You just draw a card and you play one. But more or less, mostly what you're going to be doing is doing attacks. And so in this case, let's go ahead and I'll just show you how this attack works. So, you name a damage for the type. The command is the type for that turn. Now, normally I'd have another player over there that I could see, but I can't, you know, because of the space limitations. So maybe I'd be able to look at their defenses, maybe see what they have, and choose a defense, choose a card that, like, a type of damage that they wouldn't be able to resist. And so, first of all, it's cost 4, and I probably, first of all, I'd have to activate that, but let's just say that I have, and so that I go ahead and I have the 9 fuel. And so now I have to, so if I activate that, I have to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and reduce my fuel, because it costs 4, like so. And then I'm going to go ahead and normally, and see, let me move the fuel tokens, move these tokens out of the way. So I have this, and I place that in front of, and I should flip that around. Actually, I apologize, no, because I'm the one doing damage. So what I'm going to do is I have to put a number of tokens on there equal to the amount of damage that I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and take one of these 3s, one of those 1s, like so, to show that I've done 3 damage. And now I get to pick, you know, what type of damage I'm going to do. So let's go ahead and I'm going to take, you know, beam. And so we're going to place that. And maybe because, like, the other player doesn't have good defense against that particular attack. So I've gone ahead and set that up. Now this doesn't resolve until the next person goes. So, and then if I take a secondary action, I have one that I really wanted to do. Actually, I would probably do that just because if I can destroy a piece of equipment that maybe I don't really want, you know, maybe I want to just go ahead and destroy my upgrade. So when you destroy a card, you don't discard it. There is a scrap pile that you have for your cards after they get used, but when you destroy a card, you literally remove it from the deck, so it isn't in the scrap or anything like that. And then, you know, then I could increase the power of this by 2 by doing it. So I would go ahead and maybe just put these 2 tokens on there like so to show that I have increased it by 2. Alright, so now the next person goes. And so the way it works, they're going to do their whole turn. And, you know, just for the sake of argument, let's just say, like, they attacked back, you know, and maybe, you know, it's a big 5er on there, and it is, you know, ballistic or whatever. And so on their turn, they can activate defense that is going to try to reduce the amount of damage that's there. So if they, you know, did defense of 3, that defended against this type, they would resolve this and take 1 point of damage. The same thing is going to go for me when I take my turn and I have to defend against that. And then, so they go through the whole process of defending against this, playing different cards, activating different things, using their different fuel, using their different tactics or their field skills or maneuvers if they have them, and to try to reduce the damage that they're taking, but also deal damage back. So now it comes back to me after they're gone, and so once this is resolved, we just take it and we remove it at the end of their turn, and we wait, and I'm going to have to try to see if I have ability to defend myself against that. Now, if you'll notice, I do have, like this one, the Universal Halon system, has a cost of 2 and a value of 2. So I can defend against 2 of that damage. So on my turn, I might, activate this one to do another attack. This time it would be more, it would be 6. So, and I'm going to, go ahead and I do that. 6 on there, and maybe stir things up and just go ahead and change up the type of damage. Maybe they've set something up on their side that's going to allow them to do that, and now I have to defend against that. I don't think I have any other defenses right now, so I don't. So when I activate this, it costs me fuel of 2, and so go ahead and reduce, and then I would go ahead and add a 2, and I probably wouldn't have to do this because we could probably remember, but I put 2 defense, and then we know they're going to defend against the ballistic. Now, there is one other thing I should mention, that if you do an attack that has multiple types on it, like this one has the 2 different types, you have to successfully defend against all of the types of damage. If you are lucky enough to have an attack that you can have an all on there, like so, meaning that it is all types of damage that is being attacked, you'd have to defend against all 4 types for your defense to work, in which case, then this wouldn't even be worth it. I couldn't do anything to defend myself against that. I would just have to take the 5 damage. Now, normally, what happens is that when you take the damage, so let's say it isn't all, when you take the damage, the player that's taking the damage gets to pick which bay they're going to take their damage of. And obviously, if their bay gets destroyed, that's a bad thing, right? Because you're going to go ahead and, like if this core got destroyed, you just replace it with that card to show that the core had been destroyed in that spot. But if there are certain abilities, like certain things that you can have that are called locked on. And let me see if I can find the there. So, like, if you have an attack that, has the descriptor of lock on, you have the ability, the attacker gets to decide which bay gets hit. So if that was on there, maybe they'd say, I want to take out that center bay. And so then I'd take 5 damage. Like so. And I'd have to, and that would be that. Now, there are ways, sometimes there are cards that allow you to replenish your hit points. It isn't just necessarily once you lose them, they're gone. But, you can, but for the most part, it is fairly difficult to do that. All right, so there are 5 rounds of combat, or I should say 5 turns of combat per round. So, in this case, so like we go back and forth, doing damage to each other, beating the holy bejesus out of each other. And then once all of those combat turns are over, then we go through the disengage phase. During the disengage phase, you resolve any existing conditions that might be happening, that might be effects that are going to happen possibly at the end of the disengage phase, and then you go directly into the supply phase. Now, whoever was the first person to act in the previous round, they give basically the first player marker, the priority marker, to the other player, because they're going to be the ones that act first this time. And then you go through the supply phase, which is kind of like the arm phase, but you do get to draw a card and add it to your hand. You can go ahead and scrap out any equipment that you want to get rid of out of your Titan, and then you get to once again arm your Titan with cards that you have from your hand to give them abilities, upgrades, and so forth. When that is complete, you generate fuel to all accumulation core equipment and depletion type core equipment cards armed this round. And then you just go on to the navigation phase. Now the other player gets to pick one, as I explained, and you choose that. and you go back and forth once again. Now, obviously, the game is going to end once one person's Titan has been destroyed, and once it is destroyed, and the other, and you could be playing teams. We played teams a few times, and then obviously, when there's down to one mech and you got two fighting two, you're probably not going to last very long. But you just play until one side has been defeated, and whoever wins, it can bask in the glory of their victory. All right, so that is Titan Command. It is one of those games that is giant robots beating the heck out of each other, which is something I really, really like. This has a very, very deep and engrossing background to the world, which I will talk about in just a little bit. And also, I mean, it's one of those games that's just fun. It's very tactical, it's very strategic, and it is, kind of fun to figure out exactly how you're going to get past your opponent's defenses and also defend yourself at the same time. But let me talk more about that in my final thoughts. So there is Haven, Titan Command. Alright, so, I've played lots of games that have this theme, and by and large, I enjoy pretty much every single one of them. I just love games that have this as a theme, and I also really like games that have these giant decks of cards. I don't know what it is about. I mean, it's weird because, as far as games like, like Thunderstone or Dominion or those other deck builders, a lot of those grew stale for me very quickly. But there's something about having just the set deck, and I was never really big into any of the CCGs or really even the LCGs for that matter. So I don't like having a big thing to create. I don't really like having to race out and get a bunch more cards and add it to a deck and try to like max out. Oh geez, I need 3 of this card, I need 2 of that card. I've never liked that, mostly because I don't have the time to put into that. I just don't find that very interesting. But I do like games like this where they're kind enough to go ahead and give you that starting deck, give you that idea of what you need to be able to play the game, and then they just kind of have you go at it. And then it's one of those cards where as you play each mech, each Titan, I should say, you kind of learn their the things they're good at, the things they're not so good at, where their defenses lie, and you can kind of plan on certain cards popping up and showing up eventually into your hand. And of course, then that opens up all the different strategies you can have as you're trying to draw more cards to get maybe that card in your hand, get those options in your hand, and all the while also just trying to make sure maintain good offense, good defense, and so you can survive. Now, this is a very, very straightforward game. It does have, some of those cards that link together. These upgrade cards do this and that sort of this, that, and the other thing. But, I did find that this wasn't as complex as I originally thought. When I first saw the game, I was like, ooh, God, look at all these symbols. Look at all this stuff going on. But once you get that first round of the game in, it flows very quickly. It flows very awesomely, and I really enjoyed it. Now, it is added to the fact that you have this cool little app as well. Now, if you've listened to my podcast and stuff like that, you know that I've probably been hesitant about the addition of electronics into my tabletop board game experience or card game experience, but I think this one is perfect. It adds a little bit of immersion. It has that cool, it has the cool robot voice going on. It has the cool look to it, and it's very non-intrusive. I mean, it isn't a bunch of cards in your hand or anything like that. It is there to assist, and it is there to basically reduce some of the clutter off the table, and it works perfectly for what it does. So, I really, really enjoy the fact that I was able to add that using my phone to the game. So, if you are looking for a very challenging, very, very competitive, deck creation game, I guess, maybe, is that the word I'm looking for, where you can, have this as the theme, I would strongly suggest you check out Haven Titan Command. It has a lot of depth. It has a ton of different cards, ton of different locations, ton of different upgrades, all those things, and it's going to really stand up with repeated plays. And if I know the creator, I'm positive they have in their mindset a bunch of expansions that they're going to put forth to add more cards, more mechs, more factions, what have you, and add it on. Now, I mentioned a little bit about the immersion, or so in this big giant rule book that they sent me. One of the cool things is that I was like, oh my gosh, look at this rule book! It's all these rules. Once again, not that complex. They have an entire background, the Haven Galaxy here, and all these different locations and what have you. They have the history of the world. They have backgrounds for each one of the factions and what they are and what their purpose is and their mysteries and what have you. Just like, they didn't have to do that, but it was a really, really good read, and I'm going to steal a ton of this stuff for my next Traveler campaign. But regardless, they've really gone the extra mile to make sure that if you are going to play a certain faction, you kind of fall in love with a certain faction, that you're going to have more than just that, yeah, I'm the green guys. You know, there's more to it, and I give them big kudos for doing that as well. So there you go. That is Haven Titan Command. If you have any questions about the game, ask away. I'll answer those to the best of my ability. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, and until next time, I am the Undead Viking, and I'm telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. Alright, bye-bye.